Hi everybody, it's Bev Lewis here with my response to the moderator postings in response to group 1. The many ideas that sort of came together with a certain theme for me, and that is that we must address the problems that we face in our efforts towards establishing sustainable systems holistically, as the problem is not simply an ecological one, but extends into numerous aspects of humanity's social, cultural, political, and economic realities. Therefore, no policy change will ever be able to offer any hope for a real solution if it neglects to address the totality of the human condition. Environmental justice and public policy are deeply intertwined with the realities of social inequity, both nationally and internationally. So in other words, we cannot hope to address the science of ecology without also addressing the long-range impact that changing practices in science will have upon our social and economic systems. Group 1 reminds us that the problems and the solutions are interdisciplinary, and the best hope we have is to work toward the goal of sustainability as a united front, engaging everyone in a team effort. Recycling, as we know it in reality, is a process of downcycling and actually manifests most of the time as a system of concentrating toxicity. The question is whether the crisis of design can be corrected using current methods, even if we somehow manage to adjust in the way factories produce and people consume. Is that going to be enough? I don't think so, according to group 1. So group 2, what I got out of them here is I think they did a great job bringing to light even more questions for consideration in regard to U.S. policy on sustainable development. For example, group 2 asks what other factors might contribute to the inadequate emphasis given to domestic sustainability efforts in recent years. And of course, there's many answers for that, but they're definitely worth considering in light of our elected officials and what they've been up to. They also bring up some very real differences in public perception and ask us to think about how we really could and should address the reality of the inadequacies and what is supposed to be considered eco-efficient practice. So what is the answer? Is it radical redesign? In this way, it's clear that the ecological problems are inseparable from the socioeconomic factors that perpetuate them. Thank you, group 2, for making us consider more. There's plenty more, but that's some good insight. Okay, so group 3, my group, what did we say? Group 3 reminds us that policy must be followed by action, or it remains no more than a good idea. Municipal change is quite possible because it is at this level that individuals can clearly influence and shape the governmental policy. That is why it's so important for these same folks who are able to shift public policy to also be the ones to implement the change into action. Group 3, response to Malthus and Ehrlich is an agreement in that both of these both of these writers are correct in warning of the real danger in human population, and with the human ability to create machines that can strip the world of its resources in less than one human lifetime. Without conscious restraint, human beings are at risk of becoming the perpetrators of their own extinction. So what this group 4 says, what they remind us is that a sustainable community is one that's designed with concern for future generations, and therefore successful sustainability embraces the idea of sacrifice. We are reminded that the people in the U.S. will have to let go of the idea of having plenty right now if there's going to be any for later. Group 4 concludes this aspect of their weekly question by saying that amending both personal attitudes and public policy to curb overconsumption are necessary steps for any foreign or domestic programs to eventually result in enhancing the health of the environment. Group 4 makes a very good point that companies that are as big and powerful as the ones outlined in this week's reading, like Dow and DuPont, are probably not the best evaluators of their own reform. As with the example of Henry Ford, it's clear that even the best intentions do not manifest as efficiently as when we look at mass production over time. Adaptations made in recent years upon manufacturing practices are relative to the scope of the corrective action, which is and continues to be short-sighted. Consequently, big business effort toward eco-efficiency is producing the same short-sighted results and lack of long-range consideration that created the problem in the first place. So, as Group 4 concludes, there simply must be a separation of decision-making power that can balance the long-range goals for restructuring our manufacturing techniques to eventually achieve holistic systemic sustainability with the immediate economic factors that influence the decisions that limit the effectiveness of corrective action. In other words, somebody else really needs to make the decision and make them do it. That's my opinion. Okay, that's all for this week, and have a wonderful night. Goodbye.